Hey, what's up, guys? So I guess I'm gonna start a podcast. I really don't know what I'm gonna make it about. It'll probably just be about anything, honestly. And by the way, if you hear licking, scratching, or any movement, it's probably my dogs. They're just chilling over here. Finally, they're being good. Um, But yeah, I thought about doing a podcast for a while. I like listening to podcasts every once in a while. And I thought it would just be something fun to do. So I honestly don't know how to start this. I know a lot of people, they're like, well, on my podcast I talk about true crimes or talk about horror stories or people just talk about random stuff, and there's not really anything specific I want to talk about. Like I guess I just want a place where I can just talk. You know what I mean? Like tell people about things I go through, and I would say I give pretty good advice. Not saying you should always take my advice. But I think it's decent, get you through life. Let's see what's happened to me in the last week that I could talk about. Um, I've gotten into docuseries on Netflix, which is really cool. I watched this one that, oh my god, it has literally changed. Like, I don't want to say it's changed my life, but it has changed my life. It was so good. It's on Netflix and it's called The Devil Next Door. And it happened in I think I want to say like mid to late 80s is when it started. And it went up through the 90s. All the way up to like, I want to say like 2013 or 2014. But it was in the mid 80s, late 80s, where this guy named John, what was his name? Did Jukamak or what was his name? Give me 1 second. I have to look it up now. That's the furnace kicking on. Hopefully, it's not too loud for you all. Let's see. The Devil Next Door. Here we go. His name, oh, come on, someone show me his name. All it says is like it's the grandfather who lived in Cleveland. Here we go. John Demjanjuk. John Demjanjuk. I think that's how you say it. Um, I guess Russia, which at the time was, the KGB, and then or not Ukraine, sorry, Soviet Union, they gave information to the United States. It was like, hey, here's all these war criminals from World War II and Nazi concentration camps who seeked asylum and refuge in your company, oh my god, who received asylum in your country. And his name was there, and I guess he was originally from Ukraine, and then World War II happened, and then supposedly he became an SS soldier in the Nazi Germany military. And he was supposedly Ivan the Terrible, which I feel like before I watched this documentary, I felt like I've heard that name before, but I didn't really I never really heard much about him because I remember I think it was in high school they had like that one kind of docu series on the History Channel called was it Hunting Hitler? That one was pretty good. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think Hitler killed himself. Spoiler alert. Um, I honestly think so. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be all over the place on these podcasts. If I lose sight of what I'm talking about, I'm so sorry. I will probably start on one thing and end up on another thing. I will try to get back on this Netflix documentary. I promise you all. But this Hunting Hitler, it was about like these historians and like U.S. investigators and people around the world trying to figure out if Hitler actually committed suicide in his bunker at the end of World War II. You know, when, America, France, and then Russia was, coming on both sides. If he actually committed suicide or if he escaped, because a lot of Nazi like high military and political figures, a lot of them escaped to like I think they made like a pit stop in Spain, or Portugal, and then they made like another pit stop in off the coast of Africa, and then they finally made it to South America, and they kind of just spread out in South America. Um, I think it was like Brazil, maybe Venezuela. I can't really remember. But they found a lot of stuff. If he at least didn't escape, a lot of like his little henchmen who followed him, they definitely escaped. They definitely got away. Um, but anyways, so the Russian, back to the Netflix documentary, the Russian government gives these documents to the U.S. as like, hey, there's all these war criminals that came in your country, and one of them is this John Demjanjuk. I'm probably not saying his name right at all. Um, and here after the war, he came to America. I guess he lived in Cleveland like the rest of his life. And he was a retired worker at a car company or car plant. And they found him guilty here in the U.S. And the trial got moved from the U.S. to Israel because they thought he was this Ivan the Terrible. And I'm not going to go into detail what this guy did. If you want to watch the docuseries, I highly recommend it. I think everyone should watch it if you have Netflix. But this Ivan the Terrible did horrific things. There's only so much that history, classes can teach you when you're in high school and stuff like that. They can only teach you so much about the real atrocities of the things that happened. By the way, if you hear a bunch of rustling and stuff, I'm trying to hold my earbud mic phones kind of away from my shirt so that way it's not rustling, but I feel like I'm making more noise by holding this thing. Let me see. Okay, my app's saying that it's not making a lot of noise, so I think we're good. But if so, I apologize. Um, but yeah, so they moved this trial to Israel, and the guy who represents him, no one would take this case, first of all. When the trial got moved to Israel, there was no Jewish lawyer who would take this case, but this guy did. I can't remember what his name was, but he was very like out there. You know what I mean? Like he was just very like I guess you could say eccentric. But at the end of the docu-series, I kind of came to the conclusion that he didn't do this probably because maybe like at first he thought he was innocent, looking at evidence and stuff like that. But I think after, everything was done, and I think he was just kind of in it for the money, and I'll get to that. Yeah, they moved the court hearing over to Israel, And really, the only evidence that they have is people who lived, if I'm not mistaken, people who lived in Israel or Jerusalem who went through the Holocaust and they remember like seeing him. They're like, I was at the concentration camp that Ivan the Terrible, this guy I'm looking at, was in charge of, you know, the gas chambers and everything like that. Um, like this is him. So they had that evidence, so eyewitnesses and stuff. But then you also had this evidence that the KGB gave to um, America, which was this identification card of a picture of a young uh, Ukrainian boy. And it was like the SS Army information stuff on it. And the stories that these survivors tell is heartbreaking. It's sad. Um, my mom, she was even like, she said she was getting teary eyed listening to him, and I was too. Um, it was very heartbreaking. And, but the thing was, it was like, okay, so this identification card, apparently, it was like very different from the identification cards that the SS Army would give their soldiers. I don't know if it's because he was a Ukrainian and maybe they gave him a different one, but they like showed like the typical SS soldier, you know, identification card. And then they showed his and it was like completely different. Like it was totally different. And there was like holes in his photo on the ID card, and like it looked like it was like supposed to be stapled to the ID card, but it wasn't. It just had like these two holes. So, and also this is a time period when, the Soviet Union's falling from communism. If you think about it, the Berlin Wall is just about to fall down in a couple more years, right? In 1990, right? Yeah, 1990. Yeah. A few more years. Berlin Wall is going to fall down, no longer separating, East and West Berlin, So is this an actual authentic, like, you don't have to say, like, this case, is any of the information that they gave the US or maybe even other countries, is it actually real? Or is it false evidence? Did they fabricate this stuff? I think that's a valid argument at the time with the Soviet Union kind of losing their foothold and things. And even Demanuk's lawyer, who I was telling you about, he was like, how can we trust that this is authentic and stuff like that? But this trial ends and he's proven guilty. They're like, this is Ivan the Terrible. And with that, he is found guilty of war crimes against humanity, even just crimes against humanity altogether, but war crimes. And he was sentenced to hang in Jerusalem. They put him in jail. They built basically a mechanical, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a mechanical gallows pole where like a machine would just do it for the people. Like they didn't have to do it. Like if I'm understanding correctly, they just like would press a button or pull a lever and he would be dead. Well, his lawyers appeal the case to the Supreme Court of Israel. So no, it's no longer just in Jerusalem. Now it's all of Israel, the Supreme Court, okay? And in that period where they appeal, his lawyer gets hint that there are documents from the KGB, Soviet Union, that Demjanjuk is not really Ivan the Terrible, but it's this other guy named like Ivan. I think it started with like an M. It was like Ivan Madbamanuk, or it was something. I'm horrible with names, so if I'm getting these wrong, I am so sorry. But the only reason he found this out is because the Demjanjuk's son-in-law, he was traveling around the U.S. trying to get funds for their lawsuit to appeal it because, I mean, they didn't have a lot of money. And so he was like traveling around the U.S. trying to get money. And I'm sure that his attorney knew that he was trying to get money for him. So he was like, I'm going to do my best to get this trial, you know? And I think that also goes back to him just being in it for the money, you know? So I guess the son-in-law heard that, like, he met someone, was like, yeah, like, there's like some stuff that you need to look at. And here they found out it was from the KGB. And, and so the lawyer goes to Russia. And then, can you not, Teddy? Ugh, go back to sleep. That was my dog, Teddy. He's special. We can talk about him later. But anyways, he goes to Russia. Then I think he had to go. Where did he go? I think he went to like Ukraine or something like that. And he got this box of documents saying like this was actually Ivan the Terrible, not the guy who you're representing. And I think it's so funny because he made the argument in the first trial, how can we, trust these documents coming from Russia? And then the next trial, he's like, I have these documents from the KGB, and it says that this guy who I'm representing is not Ivan the Terrible. He is just some random Ukrainian guy who, moved to Cleveland. Cleveland. He moved to Cleveland after the war. And that Supreme Court found him. Why can I not talk? Oh my gosh. That Supreme Court found him not guilty. And he was a free man. And he got to move back to the U.S., okay? And then after that, there were agencies here in the U.S. who couldn't get him for being Ivan the Terrible, but they could at least get him for being an SS soldier. So they pressed charges against him, and they can't take him back to Israel, but they can take him back to Germany, where these concentration camps were, and they do. And when they pick him up to arrest him, they wheel him out in like a stretcher bed, I'm pretty sure. And, the family's outside, the front lawn, oh, miss you, bye papa, or whatever they call their Ukrainian grandparents. Bye papa, we'll be there for you. And then it looked like the granddaughter was looking at the grandma, and she was like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be fine, And like he looks awful, like he looks like he's barely hanging on, barely alive. And then they show footage from a week earlier when he went to a doctor's appointment. He was walking perfectly fine. He was opening the car door. He was getting in, he was fixing the ball cap on his head. This guy was fine. He was faking. And he goes in the courtroom in Germany, and he looks like, if you've ever been to a nursing home and you're like with, your family member who's there, and you look across the room where they just kind of hang out and they put puzzles together and, do whatever old people do in nursing homes. And there's like that one old person in the corner, and they just kind of leave him there. They're like, he's kind of in his own world. This is what this guy was, okay? They brought him in a wheelchair. His eyes are closed. He's kind of like leaning back. He looks like he's asleep. And he's like slapping his like jaws together. He's going, I'm sorry, those sounds probably sound disgusting, and I apologize for that. But that's what he was doing. He looked like he was like barely alive, but he's not a good actor. Oh, that was a couch. Sorry. But they find him guilty of being an SS soldier, letting these things happen to humanity. And they appeal. Now, let me also put this into perspective. When they wheel this guy into Germany, he's 91 years old, okay? He's 91. All right? So, when he appeals this, and they try to, I guess take it to a higher court or whatever, it was going to be like a year later that they were going to, retry this or have a rehearing or whatever. He dies in a nursing home in Germany. And according to German law, if anything happens to you between the time you're going to be appealing your case, if you were found guilty, if you die or anything like that, you're not guilty anymore. You're innocent. So this John Demjanjuk, the Ukrainian kid who moved to Cleveland, had a family, was working at a car factory. Supposedly Ivan the Terrible passed away, and he was proven innocent somehow. And I'm kind of just giving a very, like, quick kind of, synopsis of what happens in this docuseries. You have to watch the whole thing, because it's like every, like, end of this episode, it's like on a cliffhanger. And every single, like, 10, 15 minutes, you're like, okay, was he actually this Ivan the Terrible who did these horrible things to the Jewish people during the Holocaust? Or is this actually just a identified guy who's, a loving grandpa in Cleveland, and, he could probably fix your tire if you need him to. I remember the next day after I finished watching it, I sat there at my job, and the whole day, that's all I could think about was like, okay, is he actually guilty or is he not? I kept thinking back and forth, and I was like, because another thing was like, he acted really weird too during the first trial. Like, the survivors were giving their stories of what happened to him. And like, me and my mom were talking. Like, we were just sitting here listening to them, and we were getting teary-eyed, almost crying and stuff. This guy was sitting there in front of them, looking in their faces, and no emotion. Nothing. He was just... It's just like it was another day for him. He was like, okay, I'm going to chill. I'm going to sit here and just listen to these people talk. Like that, like, from what I saw, that's what it was like. He had no emotion whatsoever. So I think it was a little strange. I think a little odd. Was he Ivan the Terrible? I don't know. I really can't sit here and tell you, yes, that was Ivan the Terrible. I can't sit here and say, no, that wasn't Ivan the Terrible. We don't know. We don't know who the real Ivan the Terrible was. And I know when they found him not guilty that second trial, I know a lot of survivors and really just Jewish people probably felt like they didn't get justice for the atrocities that happened to not only themselves, but their families, their friends, and just their people in general. The people who they went through these horrible things with. Um, but I am a true believer in God. I believe that um, whatever, happens, God is the ultimate decider. He makes the ultimate final decisions and stuff. So, you know, if he was Ivan the Terrible, and if he didn't ask for forgiveness of what he did to all of those innocent people during the Holocaust, I think, God will take care of it. He'll have justice for, the Jewish people, which are his people. God will have justice for his people. So he might not have gotten it here on earth, but, God takes care of it in the end. So yeah, watch that series. It's really, really good. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, like that lawyer, I'm pretty sure by the end of it, he was just like, yeah, I know this family is going to do anything for this old guy. They love him so much. I just want all their money. And like he even went on an interview, I think afterwards, and someone was like, "So how much money did you make off of this trial and everything?" And he's just like, I guess we will find out on my taxes when they come out." Was that offensive? If it is, I'm sorry. I don't even know if that was a good Jewish accent or not. But that's literally what he said. He was like, "I guess we'll find out when I pay my taxes," or it was something like that, like pertaining to his taxes or whatever. But I guess it wasn't too long after that second trial, he was at a funeral, I think. He went to a funeral, and one of the survivors, I think, was at that funeral. And he had some kind of like chemical or whatever. I think it was like a powder chemical or something. And he went up to the lawyer and like blew it in his face or whatever. And it got in the guy's left eye. And the guy can only see 5% out of that eye now. They were like, "This guy's a traitor. He's betrayed the Jewish people. He's a Nazi and stuff like that. And I bet they did feel betrayed. You know, I'm sure they did feel betrayed. By someone who's he's their people. He's a Jewish man. And here he is representing allegedly a guy who persecuted and tortured Jewish people 40 years ago. So they probably did feel some, betrayal from him. But I honestly think he was just in it for the money. I could be wrong, but by the end of it, I was like, yeah, he was just in it for the money. It was crazy. But yeah, if you're looking for something good to watch, if you like history or you like docuseries, I would watch that one. That's a good one. I'm almost done with this one docuseries, also on Netflix. It's called The Staircase. It's a little bit more. It's like a murder case, and it talks about the. Excuse me. It talks about. How the justice system is very flawed, and it's a really good case. Like it's really sad what this guy's going through. Maybe I'll talk about it next week. Who knows? What else is going on in my life? Love my job. Love that job so much. I'm not gonna say what my job is because I feel like I might be talking about it a lot, ranting about my job. So I don't want to lose my job. I'll just say I do love my job. It's just some of the things I have to deal with when it comes to customer service. You were always told growing up by your teachers and stuff, there's no dumb question. There's not a dumb question. They were so wrong. They never worked in retail. because some of these people, I listen to them and I hear the questions that they have for me or my other coworkers, and I'm just blown away by some of these people. Actually, speaking of which, let me see. I had a memory come up. I really hope it was today, because if not, I'm going to be so mad. Let's see. Oh my god, it's been a year since my windshield, or no, not my windshield, but my car window went kapooey. Oh, it's not on here. That's kind of that's aggravating. Okay, so uh, this was last year, maybe the year before that, because I've been there. Let's see, I started in 2020. Oh my god, I've been there for almost 2 years now. Gosh, so it had to be last year. It had to be last year. Um, it was me and one of my other coworkers. I can't remember who, and we were fixing the clearance section, and I went to go get some fixtures or something, and I came back and she was like, "You'll never believe what I just heard." This mom asked her daughter. I was like, "What's that?" And she goes, the mom was asking her math questions. And she was like, "Okay, you know, Olive, whatever her name was, Olivia, what was it? Like, I think she asked, like, what's 9 times 2?" By the way, this kid looks like she's maybe in, like, first, second grade. So she's probably just now learning about multiplication. Like, I remember learning about multiplication when I was in first grade. No. I was in second grade. That's right. I was in second grade because my teacher was Mr. Tennant. And I'm 99% sure now that he was a little bit of a pedophile. I have a feeling that he was. He just had that look, you know? And also, he carried like a whole, like, he carried a lot of keys. Like, it's suspicious. Like, why do you have that many keys? Like, what are you trying to hide? What do you have locked up, you know? It's like in that scene in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Johnny Depp's character has like that ring of keys. That's what his was like, okay? But it was worse than that, okay? But anyways, but she's like, what's 9 times 2? And the girl's like, "Oh, it's I think she said it was like 8 or something." First of all, wrong. Okay. And my coworker proceeds to tell me that the mom, after hearing her daughter say that 9 times 2 is 8, she said, "Good job, Olivia," or whatever her name was. She was like, "You're right." And I knew at that moment that these kids had to get back to school because these parents are so stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're teaching their kids. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And I'm like, first of all, did you graduate high school? And if you did, you must have. I can't even say you barely graduated. You must have, like, they must have just felt so sorry for this woman. They were like, "We just gotta let her go. She's gotta figure this stuff out on her own. We've tried so hard to help this woman, you know." I wonder what her job is. I wonder if she's just a stay-at-home mom. Oh my god, that's terrible. That's terrifying. Okay, that's terrifying for those kids that they have to be around their mom for that long, and they're like, "Mommy, like, isn't 2 plus 2 like 15?" And she's like, "Yes, little Johnny, that's right." And it's not. She's wrong. She's an idiot. She's a moron. No offense. If, you're that woman and you're listening to this, you're probably not, okay? Like, honestly, there's probably only be like maybe 5 people who listen to this. Maybe. Okay? Maybe. All right? So let's not get all excited. Let's not get all, crazy over here. Just having a good time, okay? Just having a really good time. Um, but yeah, that's really my only complaint with my job is just having to deal with its customer service. Like I do great talking to customers. Like I'm always very polite. I try to be as patient as possible. If not, I will call a manager. I've rarely had to do that. I don't think I actually have had to do that. Knock on wood. Um, but yeah, I always just try to be very patient, very kind, try to be as helpful as I can. And then you just have those customers who you would love to just deck them in the face, and you can't, because if you do, you lose your job. And if that gets put on your resume, and then I hope you wouldn't put that on resume. I'm trying to think what I'm trying to say. You would go to another job, okay, and you put your last job, okay, and you're like, okay, my reference is my manager, and they call your manager, and your old manager is like, yeah, no, she punched an old lady because she kept asking where the command strips were, and she was pointing right in front of the woman's face, and she couldn't see them, and she got so upset she just punched her. I've never done that. Let me just say that. I've never done that. I could never punch anyone. Well, I could never punch an old lady. I could probably punch someone else, but I would never punch an old lady, okay? That's just rude and everything, but yeah, it's just oh my gosh. I could probably do a whole just podcast episode talking about my experiences with customers and stuff. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. My one coworker, I think it's the same one who I was just telling you about the whole math story. I don't know how she gets away with it. I really don't know how. But I want to be her. I want to be her when she deals with customers, because it is the funniest, the smartest, and the most... It's awesome how she handles customers. It's amazing. Because, she'll just give it back to them, but she does it with a smile. And I think it's because she smiles. The customer is like, oh my gosh, she really wants to help me and, find my, pipe cleaners and pom-pom balls, But in reality, she's just fed up with talking to you. And she's just doing her job. And I want to be her so bad. That's the reason why I love just hanging out with her, because I'm I want to be her. I want to be able to just talk to a customer like that, and they don't even realize that you're just giving them sarcasm, and you're just I really don't care about you right now. I really don't. I know a couple, I think it was Christmas season. We had our truck come, and she's unloading her stuff, and she said it was every there was 10 customers throughout the day. Can I ask you a question? Or I have a question for you, can you help me? And she was by the 11th 12th person who was I have a question for you, she said she turned, she looked at him, gave him a smile, you give him a little smile, be yeah. And she was of course you have a question for me. And the person was oblivious. They just thought she really wanted to help him. She didn't! Okay? I'm sorry for those, listening with earphones, okay? She didn't want to help you, okay? That's something oh my gosh. Okay, I have another story, but I'm just going to say this. When it's truck day, okay, and we're getting our freight in, this is not just for, where I work at. This is for every store you go to, okay? If it is truck day, all right, they're getting their freight in, they're trying to get all these boxes out, okay? We don't want to help you. I'm sorry, but we really don't. We will. I'm not saying we won't. We will. But when we help you, don't expect us to be nice, okay? Because we have like, it's going to depend on the department too that you're at, okay? I know my department, on a rough truck day, I'm talking rough, we might have like 15 boxes, okay? And then like for the other department, like our biggest department, like they have to sort it in the warehouse because they have so much. Okay? So we have like all this stuff that we have to get out, and we have to get it out most of the time that night, because if not, that's less people who will be in the back to help process even more stuff that we got on the truck for the next day, okay? So when it's truck day and you see people putting stuff away, you know, we'll help you, but don't expect us to be nice about it, okay? We're going to help you, but you're going to get some sarcasm. You're going to get a little bit of anger. You're going to get a little bit of like, you know, I wish this person would just figure it out on their own. Or, hey, here's another idea. Come another day. Come another day and find what you need to find. Are you in such a dire situation that you need to come on a weekday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to get buttons, fabric, and some bubbles? Is it that much of a dire situation? I highly doubt it, okay? But this was like 2-3 weeks ago. I almost snapped. I usually can handle my cool with customers, okay? Alright, but I almost snapped. And I think I almost snapped because this was my first ever interaction with a real life Karen. Dun dun dun. Yeah, it was scary, okay? Because here's the thing. We all have the image of a Karen in our head, right? She's got that short haircut, that pixie bob, okay? Spiky. It's just spiky and like rough and just like their hearts. They're rough, they're spiky, they don't want any love, okay? And like we all have that image, right? And it's mostly blondes too. And look, I'm a blonde, okay? I am a blonde, so I'm okay to say this. I've noticed this. It's blondes who have that spiky pixie Karen haircut, okay? And you're like, that's a Karen. All right, that's a Karen right there. All right, you better watch out, okay? But here's the thing, all right? This woman didn't look like a Karen. That's why it threw me off, okay? Now I'm thinking about it, she did have blonde hair, but it wasn't the spiky pixie haircut, okay? She had, I think she had like kind of shoulder length, maybe a little bit longer kind of hair. I think it was kind of parted in the middle. And she was wearing like a outdoorsy kind of sweatshirt and jeans. And the person who's in charge of our department, she's like, hey, I'm going to go to lunch. And the person who was in charge of the department next to us, who has like, they have like yarn and embroidery and stuff like that, she ordered lunch for both of them. And she went like 15 minutes earlier before my department manager, okay? So they're both at lunch, and there's like 10 minutes till the department head next to our department came back from lunch, okay? So I'm outside of our department. I'm putting, I'm opening boxes. I'm taking out, bubble wrap and throwing it in the trash. And I'm getting, the stuff that we need out of the boxes and putting it on the shelves. And I'm opening a box and pulling stuff out. And this woman approaches me. And she's like, hi. She's like, I'm looking for this yarn. It's, I love wool. I love this wool. But you don't, who's calling? Better be someone important. It's no one. I don't want to take your survey. Okay. Sorry about that. She's like, I'm looking for this I love this wool and this color, and I don't see you have it on the shelf, but I do see that you seem to have gotten your truck in today. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, can I go through the boxes and try to find the yarn that I need? Now, you may think, oh, that's not bad. She's very polite. She's kind. And I thought the same thing. I was like, okay, she's nice. She's polite. But I can't let her go through the boxes because when they send the boxes to us, they're not sorted, okay? They just throw stuff in there, okay? It's not they do it by departments. Like, whatever, like, the whole store orders, they're like, okay, let's just throw it in a box, fill it up, and then they can deal with it at their store, okay? God forbid they make it easy for us. God forbid they make it to where it can be easier for us, okay? So sometimes, she has yarn and, crochet hooks and embroidery floss and things like that. But I know her. She's found stuff, like markers, and she's found, pillows, and like she's found all different kinds of stuff in her freight. And our department is frames, okay? So there's a lot of glass. And a lot of times the frames we get in are broken, so there's broken glass. And I tell her, ma'am, I said, I'm sorry, no, we can't have you go through the boxes. There could be something in the box that could injure you. And she goes, well, there's nothing in needle art that can injure me. And I knew in that moment that this customer was going to be special. I knew it. I knew it. So she said that there's nothing in the box that could hurt me from needle art. There's no way. No way, ma'am. I said, well, yes, there is, ma'am. And I tell her how they don't sort our boxes, so there could be broken glass in the box. And she's like, well, can you at least tell me if the yarn got ordered? I said, yes, absolutely. I can go check her ship sheet, see if she got it in or not. So I go over, I find her ship sheet, I'm looking through, and the color she needs, she did order it. I was like, it looks like she did order it. It looks like there's 6 that's come in. I said, she'll be back. Literally, she'll be back from her lunch in like 5-10 minutes, okay? She'll be back. I don't know if she sorted her boxes or yet not. I don't know if she sorted them or not, I don't know if she's gone through and, picked out, if this goes in this aisle and that goes in that aisle. She'll know when she comes back, and then she'll be able to help you right away, okay? And she's like, okay. So I leave. I go back to my department. I'm not even gone from this woman for a minute, okay? And I hear one of my coworkers call for a manager. Now, her department is right next to the yarn department. And the first thing that pops in my mind is this woman just probably walked over to her and was like, I want to complain to your manager. And I was like, great. I'm going to get in trouble because this woman couldn't wait to find yarn. And I'm putting frames away and I'm putting the freight away. And I go around the corner and I see one of the managers throwing boxes of this yarn on the floor, trying to find this yarn for this woman, okay? And I turn back around the corner, and the person in charge of that department is coming back from their lunch. They only had to wait like another minute, and she would have been there to help her. So they find the yarn, the woman leaves. And I tell the person in charge of the department what happened, and then the person next to her department tells me, yeah, she came up to me and she said, I demand to speak to your manager right now. I have a right to go through these boxes to find the yarn that I need for my project, okay? And I'm like, she has the right? I'm sorry. You have a right to go through our boxes? I kind of wish I would have just told her, yeah, go ahead and look through them. And you know what? If she would have gotten injured, that's on her. But But that was a real life Karen, guys. Just privilege. Just think that she's above everyone, thinking that she's better than everyone, that the whole store has to stop so she can find her yarn for her project. And by the way, she was buying wool yarn. Who uses wool anyways? Have you felt that stuff? It is so uncomfortable. It's itchy. Like, it's not soft. Like, if I want something made out of yarn, I want it to be nice and soft. I want it to be warm, but I want it to be soft. I want it to feel like I want it to feel like the clouds are just hugging my body, okay? I want it to feel like I'm being held by a warm cloud, okay? But she was using scratchy Brillo pad wool for whatever project she was using. And I was like, wow, I just dealt with a Karen. And it kind of shook me because, like I said, it wasn't the typical Karen that you would see. Like you have an image of a Karen. When I say, yeah, that woman acts like a Karen, you know exactly what you think of. Like I said, the pixie haircut and stuff like that. Okay, this woman didn't look like that. And you know what? It kind of scared me because I got to thinking, what if they're evolving? What if they're evolving to where we can't notice them anymore? The only time we can notice them is when they start speaking and saying, I want to speak to your manager. Meh, 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 meh. It's scary, guys. We're in some very scary times right now. And we just gotta be, listen, we gotta be careful. We gotta be careful of all these things. So we're almost at 60 minutes. I didn't realize I've been talking that long. I just looked at my phone and it's like 51 minutes now. Wow. So I guess I might just go ahead and end this episode. Yeah, because I think that's good. I honestly thought I was just gonna make this, first episode maybe like half an hour at the most, and then I just started talking about Karens and time just flew by. So thank you all so much for listening. I hope you got this far. If not, I honestly don't blame you. Let's be real. But thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my crazy stories and my interest in docuseries on Netflix. And I guess I can probably record one next week. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like I said, who knows what this podcast is going to be. It's probably just going to be a random thing. I don't even have a name for this podcast, okay? Like, I don't even know what to call it. I might just put it on my YouTube channel, and maybe you guys in the comments, like if you comment on it, just give me an idea of what I should call it. My name's Gabby. Just call it The Gabby Show. I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a great week. Don't work too hard. Don't stress too hard about stuff. Just take care of yourself. That's the most important thing, is just to make sure you take care of yourself and, those around you and everything. And just have a good week. Be nice to someone, smile at someone, make someone's day, make someone laugh, And I guess I'll see you guys next week, and we'll see what we have to talk about next week. So again, thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye bye.